Like when I was 17, I was like, prostitution should be legal, man. Sex work is work. You say stuff like that when you're a teen. Then you hear about the cartels and how they
Yep.
use kids as soldiers and spies and prostitutes. And you go, oh, that dumb pie in the sky thing I said when I was 17 is idiotic. But he's still in the 17-year-old phase of his life.
I don't know. Maybe he just wants to destroy the fabric of this country. And this is how you do it.
Yeah, that's the best case scenario, is that he's evil and smart. I think he's evil and retarded.
Yeah.
And
we have the story from the New York Post. Nearly 1 million New Yorkers ready to flee NYC if Mamdani becomes mayor, possibly igniting the largest exodus in history. Now, the reason this is scary is because it will entrench political power for the far-left extremists in New York. And more importantly, the majority of the city does not want Mamdani. But he might win. Why? Because you've got Cuomo and Sliwa. They're pulling from each other. Sliwa is the Republican. Cuomo is the independent. But if Cuomo dropped out and endorsed Sliwa, I don't know necessarily that Mamdani would lose. Because there's going to be a bunch of Democrats who hate Republicans and say, I'd rather a Democrat than a Republican. But it's possible. If Sliwa dropped out and endorsed Cuomo, Cuomo would probably win, but then you're just empowering a Democrat. What's the argument? Evil or evil light? The issue then becomes, the polling we have right now between the three of them shows Mamdani certainly with the plurality, but still around 43%. Sliwa is the least, and Cuomo is in second place. If Mamdani wins and people flee the city, it means that those who oppose Mamdani will no longer vote, and this means the city will only move further to the left. As more and more people leave, the radicals can push their agendas and pull the Overton window in this direction. The same thing is happening across the board in many different jurisdictions. This geographic hyperpolarization spells political violence. But we will pull in Gavin McInnes to discuss this and talk about what he thinks about Mamdani and the exodus, as well as the political violence. Let's see if it looks like everything is working properly. Let's get it rolling. Gavin, can you hear me?
yes, I can indeed.
How's it going, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, although stories every single day seem to indicate it's getting crazier and crazier out there with political violence and hyperpolarization. And so we've got this one story I want to kick it off with. They're predicting a mass exodus from New York if Zohran Mamdani wins, which I fear will just increase the hyperpolarization, because now anybody who'd vote against them, they're going to be leaving. So I see you got the newspapers there. Well, what do you think? You think people are really going to flee the city?
Yes, I'm thrilled. My property value is going to double. I'm up here in Westchester. There's going to be a mass exodus of everyone rich. So if you have a nice house in Westchester or New Jersey or Long Island, you're about to make a ton of money, because without a shadow of a doubt, Mamdani is going to destroy this city the same way Sadiq Khan destroyed London. I mean, we're about to have a Muslim problem for the first time ever.
I do think property values, well, it's hard to predict. I'll tell you, certainly there's going to be a lot of people who go to Westchester. Maybe they'll go to Long Island. Maybe they'll go to Connecticut. But I think most people are going to just generally get out of New York. If you're moving, you're moving. There's going to be a lot of people who don't want to lose their jobs, so they want to leave the city but keep working there. I think people are not going to want to be in New York at all.
Well, we started seeing that exodus during COVID. Eric Adams did a terrible job. So we've seen people leaking out of this city for a long time. But you're right. Everyone who was considering South Carolina, Texas, Florida, this is going to put them over the edge. I guess the only guys that are going to stay are the sort of Wall Street finance bros that have to be here. But anyone who can work remotely, which, by the way, we all practiced during COVID and figured out. So like commercial real estate in New York, they lie about it a lot. They say it's up to like 70%, 80%. Dude, it's 50, and it's going to go down to 30. And one of the catches is with Bill de Blasio, he set up this tax law where, you know, if you own the Empire State Building and you only rent out one office, the landlord only pays for that one office. So there's no real incentive to have successful commercial real estate in New York. So it's going to be absolutely devastating. My cop friends are talking about Mad Max levels, like they're buying ammunition.
Do you think it's going to well, it seems hard to believe that we'd get to escape from New York levels of insanity in the city, but
We're getting there. People don't realize how violent New York can be. Like we have a homicide rate right now; it's about a person a day, and that's considered fantastic. Oh, good. Like in the 70s,
just
80s,
one.
even the 90s, it was in the thousands. It was like 1,400 to 2,000 homicides a year.
Wow.
And the population's always been about the same here. You
Yeah.
can't fit more people in it. So we learned with Giuliani that New York thrives when you follow law and order. The second you take that away, this place is a powder keg. It's going to go.
I think that if this trend continues, maybe Escape from New York is a bit of a hyperbolic example, but take a look at the politics of it. The people who oppose Mamdani are more likely to believe in law and order and keeping prisoners in jail, and they're going to leave. And the people voting for Mamdani, the people who are voting for Mamdani, are more likely to be criminals themselves. So at a certain point in this equation, non-criminals are like, I'm tired of being victimized, and the criminals are like, this is the place for me. And then maybe we'll build a big wall around it.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. All the cool people leave, and you're left with his voter base is a lot of LARPing rich girls whose dads pay their rent, and they're here, sort of like that chick in White Lotus, Piper, who wanted to become a monk. I don't know if you've seen that show, but it's all rich kids playing. Then there's a lot of spite. There's a lot of anti-white racism. They're all voting for him.
Yep.
And then anyone who's an immigrant, like no one is voting for his policies. His policies are insane. He wants to get rid of the police. He wants to replace them with social workers, which you've all tried. He wants free grocery stores, which will be empty, but they'll also bankrupt all the Puerto Rican bodegas. So he's fighting a food desert by creating a food desert. What else is he doing?
Well, let me clarify that. He wants profitless convenience stores, which effectively does the same thing. If there's a bodega, government-run bodega that's selling milk for $1, then the actual private-run shop that needs to sell it for $1.50 is going to be like, I can't compete. No one's going to come there.
No one's, and then so they'll be gone, but then the grocery store will be empty like it was in Kansas City. We did this in Olympia, Washington. It never works out. Communism has been tried, dumbass. And you know that whole thing is based on a typo? He saw the website and he saw, $60 million surplus. I'll spend that on free grocery stores. No, dude, that's not a pile of cash sitting there. That was subsidies and tax breaks that are going to go on over the next 5 years. He thinks it's just a bag of gold.
Well, that was AOC too. When they offered up the tax discount to Amazon, she thought a discount was cash to be spent. And she was like, if we're going to spend $3 billion, we should build roads. And they're like, no, lady, they're saying they won't charge them the $3 billion. It's a discount to get them to come here and make more jobs. She didn't understand that by bringing in the Amazon jobs, each individual would be paying taxes and it would increase the total tax revenue for the city. But no one ever accused a communist of being smart. So here we are.
No, he's never worked. Just like AOC, she's a bartender. He's never had a job. He was a state assemblyman. He passed he introduced, I think, 20 bills in 4 years. 3 of them passed, and they were all anti-Israeli, anti-corporate, anti-wealth. He just hates rich people because he's a rich kid.
Yeah.
And when rich kids grow up with free stuff and they go, I have had free stuff my whole life. It's awesome. Everyone should try it.
Yeah.
No, dude, that's not how free stuff works, you boob.
Have you seen the videos where he's putting on fake accents?
Oh, yeah, those are great.
Those are funny.
Really?
He's talking like this.
Too.
My Uganda brothers. It's like, why are you talking? He doesn't talk like that in America. But so all of this, right, this mass exodus stuff, we've actually seen it for years now. The Pacific, I shouldn't even say the Pacific Northwest, but the West itself. People have been fleeing California, Oregon, and Washington. I went to Arizona recently. There's a ton of people fleeing to Utah, Idaho, Arizona, which is making it easier for socialists to win elections in these states and to enact these psychotic policies. I fear that this hyperpolarization is lending itself to the already escalation of political violence. And look, if you just write this down on paper and do the math, people splitting into various territories by political ideology, increase in violence equals civil war.
Yes, you're totally right, and it becomes asymptotic. The more it happens, the more intense it gets. And everything you need to know about America is the four biggest states. Everyone has left California and New York, and they've gone to Florida and Texas. Florida and Texas are prospering. They're thriving. They're wonderful places to be. And you have a brain drain. You have a money drain. You have everything good drain. And the schools in New York and California just keep getting worse. Like I hate when people go, oh, it's got to get way worse before it gets better. There's no end to worse. Look at
Yeah.
San Francisco. Katie Hopkins told me when she was there, when you walk on an ice rink with shoes on and you're sort of like, whoa, whoa. She said the feces and slime and drudge on the streets of San Francisco make you slide in your shoes.
Ah.
That's where we're going to be. Human excrement making you slip. God forbid you fall.
I fear that, there's a lot of variables. I always say, like, we can't predict what will happen tomorrow. Maybe Trump will, go in and occupy these states and shut them down, and nothing ever gets to the, it's over, right? But I do fear, that if we're on this track, what ends up happening is one of two scenarios where either these blue states become failed states. They largely are becoming this. Theft is running rampant. You can't get criminally charged for stealing under $900 in a bunch of these jurisdictions. I think in Philadelphia, it's $500 or less is not a crime anymore. And then in California, it's $900. As these states fail, they'll begin to vote and demand that red states provide for them. Now, it's funny because what the Democrats often bring up is the red states are the recipient of federal funding more so than blue states. Blue states pay. I'm saying that's going to reverse if you keep playing this game. Or to be fair, the blue states will tax their citizenry at such remarkable levels, they'll always be able to pay something. I don't know. But I fear that as these states crumble, they're going to try and take from red states. The red states are going to say no, and this is going to be the main point of contention between two now hyperpolarized factions.
That's the future of America. We're getting divorced. We're splitting up. We're fighting over the kids. If quite literally, like if he legalizes prostitution, child sex trafficking will go through the roof because you can't stop pimps and prostitutes. They're just, legal workers. So we're fighting for the kids, but cut me loose, cut New York loose. This is about to become the most dangerous city in America, worse than Baltimore and the south side of Chicago. So everything you're saying is true, but the secret is the red states have to say no. We're not helping you out. We're cutting you loose, New York. We're cutting you loose, Chicago. We're cutting you loose, San Francisco. I don't want to deal with this mess.
That's a great point about Mamdani wanting to legalizing sex work. It's because sex work is work, he says. And then what happens when you have an underage girl walk in the streets, being forced to do so by some pimps? Maybe she's from Guatemala and they forced her to do it because they will. And then when the police come and say, we want to stop this trafficking, they go, we have no probable cause to stop a legal worker in New York. And so any information they gain from this young woman to stop the trafficking will be, it's the exclusionary rule, the fruit of the poison tree. Sorry, you had no legal reason to stop this legal worker. That's the game they're going to start playing. The scary thing is what we saw in California, where they found those child slaves working on the pot farms. The cartel members are bringing families and children into this country illegally and then saying, now you have to work to pay us off. So the family then brings these children, and the children don't choose to be there and don't want to work, but they're forced to by the cartels who brought them here. So now you have child slavery. Once they make prostitution legal, those little girls are going to be doing more than just picking marijuana on the streets of New York, and that's what's terrifying about it.
Isn't it? It's a nightmare scenario. And it's the kind of thing, like when I was 17, I was like, prostitution should be legal, man. Sex work is work. You say stuff like that when you're a teen. Then you hear about the cartels and how they use kids as soldiers and spies and prostitutes. And you go, oh, that dumb pie in the sky thing I said when I was 17 is idiotic. But he's still in the 17-year-old phase of his life.
I don't know. Maybe he just wants to destroy the fabric of this country. And this is how you do it.
Yeah, that's the best case scenario, is that he's evil and smart. I think he's evil and retarded.
Yeah. I'll say something crass, but I'll keep it light just for the sake of people who maybe listen to this. Well, earmuffs for your kids. My response to all these leftists, and they say sex work is work. I said if that was true, it would be illegal for the boss at a Starbucks to require the young women working for him to take care of him in the back room as part of their jobs. And as soon as you mention that, all the feminists lose their mind and get offended at the idea that a male manager could require that of his female staff. And I'm like, but why? It's no different than taking the garbage out. If there's a manager at a Starbucks and he says, hey, I know you're the barista, but garbage got to go out, you say, fine, right? Because taking the garbage out is work. If it's work is work, right?
Yep. I don't think people get that New York City, the wolves are at the door. Like I'm not a big cop guy. I don't want everyone getting arrested for jaywalking, but for some reason in New York City, when you really follow the letter of the law, broken window theory, turnstile jumpers, all that, New York gets cleaned up overnight.
Yeah.
We learned that from Giuliani. I don't like people getting arrested for jumping a turnstile. It sounds fascist, really. But for some reason, New York needs that level of discipline. And without it, it's not like we're in Finland here and everyone is going to abide by the law and help out. The second you let your guard down, this city just eats itself.
You know how LA's subway system works, though, right? I don't know if they've changed it because I haven't been there I haven't used the train there in a long time, but it was honor system. You just walk in. You walk in, you get on the train, and what they would do is they would place cops at random train stations to check people. But it was always the dumbest thing because what would happen is, like, I'd be on the train, and I, of course, always bought my ticket. It was $2. But I'd see people get off the train. One guy would walk up the stairs a little bit, run back down the escalator, and go, cops. They'd jump back on the train, and, like, you'd see 5 guys just go to the next stop and get off for free. And then there were a bunch of dudes that I knew. They said the secret's really easy. You buy the Metro Pass card, the tap card, and then you put money on it. You put $20 on it, but you never use it. And then what happens is if the cops see you get off the train and they ask for your ticket, you show them the card. They'll scan it to see if you actually used it to buy a ticket. When it comes back saying you didn't buy a ticket, you go, I must not have read. I don't know. My bad. It's got money on it. And they go, oh, yeah, you're right. And they just let everyone get away with it. And then the taxpayer foots the bill. That's what,
dude, all these things have been tried. Like even the social worker thing, LA did that. They said no more cops. We're getting social workers. Guess what happened next? They had to hire cops, the same ones that they fired, to follow these social workers and guard them because domestic disputes are really, really dangerous. Nothing is new here. All this socialist crap has been tried and it's failed every single time.
Yeah. Well, now one thing we got going on the right, which apparently was dominating the conversation over the weekend, is this Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes stuff. Yep. They're saying, what was it? Randy Fine said Tucker's the worst anti-Semite in America. They're saying don't host Nick Fuentes or Tucker. He's bad. What's your take on all this? Have you been following it?
Yeah, I love Nick. I'm a Zionist. I'm a pro-Jew guy. I think anti-Semitism is generally low IQ. It becomes a crutch for people to answer all their problems. If it rains on your birthday, it was the Jews. Even right. Mamdani says that. He goes, when the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it was laced by the IDF.
What does that even mean?
What? The IDF controls the NYPD? Where did you get that from? But you can disagree with people. Like that used to be the core of America. Gore Vidal and William F. Buckley arguing and the whole nation is watching in their living rooms. We used to be able to do that. Now they call that giving Nazis a platform.
Yep.
No, it's having a discussion. We should all have discussions. Good ideas will outweigh bad ideas. That's the way it works in a free speech society.
This is the fascinating thing because there's been this attempt by certain conservatives to call Nick Fuentes, Aaron McIntyre, even Mary Morgan, who's hosts Pop Culture Crisis for TBS, they call them woke right. Yeah. And they say it's because they use, it's the same grievance argument, but they claim it's the Jews who are oppressing them. And it's, my response is like some of these people, but the problem is the woke right label has been attached to literally everybody, like anybody on the right. Now what's interesting is it looks like those that levy the phrase woke right are more like woke themselves, coming out and saying, don't platform people, they're Nazis. And I'm like, well, that sounds familiar. Why not have an argument?
Yeah. Don't platform means I'm scared of your ideas. Imagine how weak you'd have to be scared of ideas. I mean, that's the boogeyman. You're an 8-year-old girl who just saw a horror movie and you're worried about what's under the bed. I can discuss what was this? Samuel Adams said there's no truth existing which I fear or would want unknown to the world.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to toughen up here. Talk about a strong men. Good times create weak men. We're scared to argue with people who are fascist. Come on, dude. Grow up.
The left was, and now you've got this, like, I don't know what you'd call this faction of the right. I actually say they're the real woke right, because they're the ones who are trying to cancel people and shut down conversations, are afraid of platforming and what someone might say. My response is the attempts to silence Tucker, this criticism against him, which is, it is to silence him. It's not because he's wrong. It's because they fear people might agree with him. And the same is true for Nick. The argument there is not that Tucker is right or that Nick is right. It's that you don't know what you're talking about, and you've not actually fleshed out your moral worldview. So you're saying, don't let anyone challenge it. Well, I can predict for you, you're going to lose if you do that.
This is why when you see these guys go into protests and some orange vest will come up and say, don't talk to him, he's right-wing media. They don't mean he's going to frame you. They mean we're all so stupid that we're going to embarrass ourselves and say something like, I have no idea why I'm here. Trump's a liar. Okay, can you give me an example of some of his lies? Oh my God, where to begin? So many. Well, just begin at the beginning then with Pick your one. Favorite three. And they can't respond. So then that goes viral. They get embarrassed. And now their thing is don't talk, don't give Nazis a platform. But what they really mean is don't allow us to be embarrassed by our own stupidity.
Yep. And so I think where this goes is I don't think that the pro-Israel side is going to win this one. I was at a meeting earlier this year, which was highly controversial to some people, where Netanyahu was there, and it was like, I don't know, a dozen or so media personalities, journalists, Netanyahu, and some government officials. And I explicitly said, 10 years from now, Israel support's gone. Because Gen Z is either on the right, anti-interventionist, with some being anti-Israel, and on the left, purely anti-Israel. So let me ask you this. You say you're a Zionist. Why is it that the pro-Israel side tends to be just so bad at the public relations game?
They don't care anymore. Like if you go up to a Hasidic Jew and you say, Howard Stern said something anti-Semitic, he said that you're all a cult. They could not care less. They're like the Amish. They have separated themselves from the rest of society. And I think the old Israelis used to try to play the Western game. Now they're like, all the gloves are off. I couldn't care less how you feel about me. I am at war with Palestine, and I'm going to win this war. You can like me or not. Couldn't care less. And then you go, well, you're going to lose your funding. They don't care about that either. That's $3 billion. They've got their own cellular technology. They've got medicine. Their GDP is pretty reasonable without America's funding.
I agree with that. Actually, I've talked to several pro-Israel folks who told me that they actually wouldn't mind it if the U.S. cut off their funding. They like getting the money. It helps them. But some of them actually argue maybe it's time that we stop this because it's creating the political tension. The argument I was told was an alliance between the U.S. and Israel is good, but the funding is the principal point of contention for many Americans. Stop funding Israel, and a lot of people won't care so much about the alliance between the U.S. and Israel. But I mean this. There are a lot of people on X that, you know, they're trying to argue against Tucker, Nick, or whoever is very critical of Israel, or even just outright anti-Semitic. But their posts are always like just not well thought out, cringe. I don't know. I don't want to name drop anybody and just drag and create drama between me and some of these personalities. But like holding up signs that say Tucker is not MAGA is probably the least effective way to actually challenge Tucker Carlson.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think any of them watched the debate. It was pretty tame. Like Nick he's definitely an anti-Semite, but like he doesn't think that the Jews shot Charlie Kirk. I think a lot of people just assume when you see someone as critical of Israel, you assume they are full on David Duke conspiracy theory nut bar. But that's why it's so important to talk to these people, because you realize, oh, you're pretty moderate. We just disagree on this and this. And that's what I said to Nick too about Israelis. I go, you don't realize how many of them are totally okay with not having the funding. Right. So if that's the only thing that you guys are mad about,
or the principle. Yeah, I do love you pointed out how it's like it rains on your birthday and the Jews did it. When Mamdani said the boots of the NYPD are laced by the IDF, my reaction was like, what does that mean? But this is what I refer to as Israel derangement syndrome. And then the problem is you can spot, in my opinion, the Israel derangement syndrome when someone immediately thinks you're talking about them when you say it. And I'm like, no, dude, You're allowed to criticize Israel. You're allowed to only criticize Israel and care about nothing else. But when you blame Israel for rain on your birthday, and obviously figuratively, you are nuts.
Well, have you noticed it becomes such a crutch that when you party with these people, uh, 2 beers in, it's back to the Jays. Like they're so mad that you are not part of their anti-Semitism. They're
Yeah.
like vegans. I'm like, dude, can we talk about something else, please? Like as Mike Cernovich said, he goes, I'm happy to talk about Jews once a week, but
Yeah.
then I need a break. These people, they just go on and they won't drop it, man.
Oh, dude.
It's brutal.
A few years ago, so we have a Discord server for the company now. We created rules and moderation to keep things on track for the community. But when I first started my first Discord years ago, back in like, I don't know, 7 years ago, it was just me. And I made it and said, come hang out. Let's talk about the news of the day. The videos that I make are about the news of the day. These people, man, I had to shut it down, legit, because what would happen is it got infiltrated by just like a dozen people. And I kid you not, one of the things that exemplifies the problem is someone posts, what did you guys have for lunch today? Then someone else says, oh, I had a sandwich. Someone else says, I got pizza. Then someone else goes, oh, yeah, I got pizza as well. Have you ever tried New York pizza? And someone's like, oh, of course I've had New York pizza. Have you ever tried pizza outside the country? One person goes, I've had pizza when I was in Italy. It's a bit different. And then someone goes, I had pizza in Israel. And another guy goes, man, I can't stand pizza in Israel. It's not done right. But you know the problem with Israel? And then in 30 seconds, a question about lunch turned into the Jews. And then this kept happening, where someone would be like, the news today is the Supreme Court. And then someone would be like, I don't like their decision regarding, federal funding for the military. Well, if the military didn't spend so much time focused on Middle Eastern nation building, well, it's Israel's fault. And I'm like, oh, here we go.
It's
talk about
exponential too. It's just like you were saying with New York City, all the people that would vote against them are going to leave, so they'll just keep accruing more power.
Yep.
It's the same with these chats and comments and message boards where the Jews in your sandwich guys, they get in there, and then other people go to the chat and they're like, oh, this is a big like Nazi Jew thing. That's not my cup of tea. So then they leave. And then it just poisons the well. It's more and more. And, I criticize Black people for blaming whites for all their problems. And, I could never be a lawyer or be successful because of racism. It would hold me down. And I'm like, dude, it's 2025. You're letting this phobia of whiteness dictate how you live your life. And these anti-Semites are the same way. Like, I'll happily discuss it. Let's put aside a half an hour, and then I got to get on with my life, please.
I completely. That's why I call it Israel derangement syndrome. But I'll give some pushback. There are these conservatives, like again, ban Nick, ban Tucker. They don't want to argue the issue. They want to silence people. They act like they are woke as well. It's weird to me when I see an American-born conservative in their mid-30s, for some reason be diehard pro-Israel, where they come out with fervor, and I'm like, you have not explained to me. I consider myself Israel ambivalent. I'm like, I don't really care. I don't think of it on a day-to-day basis. In the context of military intervention, I'm opposed to the funding of foreign governments like this. But I don't understand how it just seems fake, in my opinion, these people coming out and fervently being pro-Israel.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm one of them. But the thing I try to convey to people about Israel is you don't understand how much nuance there is there. Like we just discussed, these people are happy to give away the $4 billion. They don't want it anymore. You read like Haaretz, which literally employs Antifa members. Like it's an anti-Zionist newspaper in Israel. The media there reads like David Duke sometimes. Like you see way more anti-Semitism in Israeli media than would ever be allowed in American media. So it's very nuanced, and the Hasids and the Orthodox hate the seculars. I mean, and then Nick will say, well, they do feel sort of an ethnic affiliation. The same way maybe a judge feels kind of bad when he sentences a black judge sentences a black guy to life in prison. He's still there might be a little bit of an affiliation there, like, oh, my brother, how did you blow your life so badly? But he's still going to jail for life. Like they still despise these, I call them Ginos, Jews in name only, these secular Jews who are pro Mamdani. Yeah. There's rabbis for Mamdani, if you can believe that.
That's wild to me, especially considering that what is it? Is it the last verse of the Hadith about killing the Jews?
Yeah, they're not big fans of the
Yeah,
Jews. But
but
we're 1 day away. We're 24 hours away. Sliwa's got to drop out. Zoran is at like 40. Those two are at like
right.
30 and 20. We could get up to 58 if Sliwa and Cuomo would merge. I can't believe I'm sitting here rooting for Cuomo, the worst, one of the worst politicians in New York's history. But
That's
you
the
know,
downward spiral, man. Because a lot of people are going to be like, who cares? Like maybe the acceleration is better. But I will say this: when I refer to these like pro-Israel individuals who have bad, I don't consider you in that group. You're allowed to like Israel, calmly and rationally have a conversation with Tucker and Nick, or not if you want. It's just that there are these people who are fervently pro-Israel who say no conversation allowed. They come off as woke, deplatform the Nazis. And at the same time, like it is the fervent zealotry of any issue that makes me question why people feel this way. So you have it with Trump, obviously. You don't have it with a lot of issues, but you have Israel and you have Trump as these like emotional issues where people are just blindly attached one way or the other.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that with Trump. I have Trump derangement syndrome in reverse. Like if he murdered someone, I would assume that guy was being a dick and probably deserved it. Like, you know, when he said I could shoot someone on 54th Street and get away with it?
Was it Fifth
I
Avenue?
wish he would shoot someone on 54th Street. I would stand by him if he did it.
Well, the assumption being, of course, if Donald Trump, as the president and chief law enforcement officer and commander in chief, was defending this country from violent criminals threatening death against us, it would be pretty amazing to see him personally going out enforcing the law. But anyway,
Cool.
so I don't know. It's they're calling it a civil war or whatever, but it's always been. I describe my politics. I was having this debate over the weekend as stop making me defend insert person. Because with Trump, it was always stop making me defend Trump. But when you lie about him over and over again, I'm going to call you out for it. The same thing is true with Nick. Nick's got a whole bunch of really bad, I would say, abhorrent opinion, praising Hitler, saying just nasty things, being a dick about it. And okay, like we can point it out. But when they attack him for things he doesn't do or try to deplatform him, my response is stop making me defend the guy, okay? Just prove him wrong. I think Ben Shapiro does a pretty good job, but a lot of these people just seem to be overly zealous. But so we're just about out of time. Last question for you. Where do you think we're going in the next few years with all this political violence?
Well, Europeans always ask me that because they assume that Proud Boys are going to take to the street and start shooting people because they watch too many movies. We're like, it's going to be Red Dawn. It's not very sexy. It doesn't sell newspapers, but I think what we're going to go through is a quiet divorce. Like you can have New York, I'll get Connecticut. You can have California. We're already doing it. We're parsing out land here. We're making our own little Palestines and Israels all over this country, and we're not going to be friends. Like soon real estate agents will tell you, oh, this is the MAGA area, this isn't, and people will move to places based on political beliefs, which when I was a kid in the 70s, you had no clue who your neighbors voted for. It was none of your business. Now there's going to be maps where you go, I live in the liberal spot.
It's worse than that. You have no choice. I live, it's technically like a quad state area because within 20 minutes I'm in West Virginia, Maryland, Virginia, or Pennsylvania. Jay Jones, if he wins in Virginia, I told my wife, I'm like, I don't know that we can go to Virginia if a guy who wants to murder conservatives is in charge of law enforcement. We already have this issue with venue selection. I was dealing with a copyright issue. And first thing the lawyer I talked to the law firm says is, which jurisdiction are you going to file this in? Because if it's a Democrat jurisdiction, you'll lose. And I said, wait, hold on. It's a copyright issue. It's not political. And they were like, no. You're not going to get a jury in a civil case over walking a dog agree with a Trump supporter right now. So
absolutely,
this is where we're at. Anyway, Gavin, thanks for hanging out. It's been a blast. Where can people find you?
Censored.tv. We've merged with Anthony Cumia's Compound Media, so we're Compound Censored. I'm also, after a 7-year gulag, I'm back on Twitter. Gavin _ McInnes, back on YouTube. Gavin_McInnes. And I've noticed when I walk around the streets of New York, I get like selfies as opposed to spat on.
Wow.
So I think there's a cultural shift going on, even in this hellhole called New York City.
Yeah. Well, right on, man. I appreciate you hanging out, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Take care. Gavin McInnes, of course. Always interesting to have him on. I think his take on, it was interesting considering the political violence as the founder of the Proud Boys, but also the Israel thing, because he had this interview with Nick where he's like very pro-Israel, and he's one of these guys who's willing to actually sit down with Nick or Tucker or anybody, and they censored him. And then they blame him for all the political violence we have in this country. It's absolutely ludicrous. My friends, smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. That's the most important thing you can do. Devori Darkins is going live right now. He actually is live. Let's get you guys on your way to go hang out with him. I really do recommend you check out his show. It's fantastic. He's great at what he does. Really, really great stuff. And you can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. November 8th, this weekend, live in D.C., Culture War, Modern Debating. It's going to be interesting. Go to dccomedyloft.com. Get your tickets while you still can. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next segment.